right what I want to manifest in 2022? Maybe it's another baby, maybe it's a marriage. Who knows? Only time will tell.
Every ounce of pain I felt became a lesson. More than just a woman, I'm more than just a person. I got all these dimensions. Whoa, 'cause I'm more than any judgment.
Hi, welcome back to my channel, Divine Orchid. If you're new here, we talk about beauty, wellness, spirituality, lifestyle, as well as social issues. So for today, I'm going to be doing a little story time. At first, I thought it would be, a sad story time, but I think it's a good story time to end the year, looking back on the year of 2021 for me personally. So I have my pomegranate seeds, which Greek goddesses would enjoy to bring in fertility and prosperity and luck for the upcoming year, as well as I have my cinnamon that I'm going to be burning, and this is going to help bring us some abundance, prosperity, as well as strengthen our psychic abilities before I go into my little story time. So if you personally know me, you know that I like to burn cinnamon pretty often, and it actually smells pretty good. And then I have my sparkling wine because it is New Year's Eve. So we're going to do a quick little toast before I go into my story time. So this is going to be my Shandon sparkling wine. Fun fact, my mom actually likes to call me Shandon. So today's story time is actually about me having an ectopic pregnancy a few months ago. Oh, I got lotion on my hands. Not good. All right. There we go. Cheers, more life. Okay. So, back in July, I went to the doctor and I'm doing a treatment with a doctor, which in a future video, I'll discuss the treatment that I'm undergoing with the doctor. But I was at the doctor undergoing the treatment and I was telling her, I haven't had my, period. It's late. And she's like, oh, how late? So then I told her how late it was. And I was mentioning to her that the month prior, I was spotting. But looking back on it, the spotting wasn't your typical spotting. It definitely was different, and it lasted for 2 days. And she was like, that sounds like implantation bleeding. You should do a pregnancy test. So I go home that night and I take a pregnancy test, and, it ended up being positive. Looking back on it, I've never been pregnant before, but I noticed like for a few weeks, I was tired a lot. I was eating a lot. I was bloated more than usual. And, my boobs were just feeling different. I was just feeling different, but, I was going through a lot at the time. So I didn't know if it was just like stress related. So when I found out I was pregnant, that was actually July 24th of this year, 2021. So then Saturday the 25th rolls around and I meet with one of my good friends that's like a brother to me, Justin. You'll hear me mention him a lot throughout these next few videos. And we went out to eat to our favorite spot. And for some reason that day, I just did not feel well. And I didn't enjoy the food. I was more sensitive to the texture of things, the smell. We walked to the lake, and even us walking to the lake, I felt like I was having a hard time. I was feeling really nauseous. I was feeling lightheaded. And when we finally got to the lake, I almost fell over from being so lightheaded, and I just didn't have a good time. So then I go home. I say, okay, tomorrow's another day. So I go to work. This is now Monday, the 26th. And while I'm at work, because I'm working the night shift, I start bleeding. And I'm like, okay, I know I'm pregnant. Maybe I'm just spotting. Maybe it's nothing that serious. I don't really feel that well. I ended up leaving work early, and I'm like, okay, tomorrow, which will be Tuesday, I'm going to go to urgent care. So now Tuesday the 27th rolls around, and I get to urgent care, told them I'm pregnant, told them my symptoms, and they're like, okay, let's do another pregnancy test. I do another pregnancy test. I'm pregnant, obviously. I already knew that. And they were like, there's nothing that we can do here for you because we don't have an ultrasound machine. And it sounds like, you're having an ectopic pregnancy. We need you to go to the emergency room in case you are having an ectopic pregnancy, because it's something that can be fatal. So now I'm like freaking out. I'm like, okay. So I took a risk and I walked myself to the emergency room because I didn't have a ride and I didn't want an ambulance to take me. And the hospital was 2 blocks away. So I walked, I made it. The emergency room, they expected me because urgent care called it in. So then I get to the emergency room, they check me in, it's a few hours, they take my blood, all of that. So then I go and I do an ultrasound, and it was a vaginal ultrasound where they have the, I don't know what you call that, but it basically looks like a large tampon, and then they put it in, and they're just going around in there trying to see where the pregnancy is. So before I move on with the rest of the story, an ectopic pregnancy is when you get pregnant, the egg is released and it goes from the ovaries into the fallopian tube, and as it develops, it goes into the uterus. That's the early part of the weeks of the pregnancy. But in an ectopic pregnancy, you usually find out between week 6 and 8. And an ectopic pregnancy is when the embryo is stuck in your fallopian tubes. Between week 6 and 8, that is when the baby's now starting to develop its spine, its heart, its ears, its eyes, its hand knobs, leg knobs. Now it has an oxygen supply. It's in a sac, which eventually bursts, all that good stuff. So in the ultrasound, they're seeing something on the left side of, my ovaries. So then go back into the emergency room after being where they did the ultrasound, and then the nurse practitioner comes in. And this is the thing about Black women not getting the care that, we deserve, because it's almost like they see us as these creatures that don't feel pain or anything like that. She literally just comes in, basically tells me I need to spread my legs, jams a speculum in it, doesn't even tell me what she's looking for. I have to act what she's looking for, and she just took this big ass Q-tip and swabs around in there and then takes it and then leaves. Then shortly after, the OBGYN and her, assistant nurse comes in, and they're like, we're gonna have to do a vaginal exam. And I'm like, well, she literally just did a vaginal exam. And they're like, yeah, but this is our department, so it's better for us to take a look. And I'm thinking to myself, well, what the fuck was she, what was she just doing? Y'all literally, I just had a vaginal ultrasound. She just went up in there with a speculum. Now you're telling me that you need to go up in there again. Mind you, I'm bleeding, I'm in pain, I'm lightheaded, there's blood everywhere. It's just a really uncomfortable experience. So I don't know what they see. They swab me again with the big ass Q-tip. And I'm just laying there. I'm like, at this point, I haven't eaten since Monday night at like 7 p.m. It's now like 2 in the afternoon. I'm hungry. They're telling me I can't eat, blah, blah, blah. So then they come and they're like, we're going to have to keep you overnight because it sounds like it's an ectopic pregnancy and we have to put your health first. And for those of you that don't know about an ectopic pregnancy is not a viable pregnancy. It has to be terminated, whether by surgery or another treatment, which I'll get into later. And the reason for that being is because as the baby grows, the fallopian tube, because it's stuck in there, the fallopian tube cannot hold a baby that's growing. So what ends up happening is your fallopian tube is going to end up bursting, which can cause a lot of internal bleeding, which can cause death in the mom. So that's why it's not a viable pregnancy. The reason why you experience some of the symptoms that you do, like the lightheadedness, you do have shoulder pain, which I experience, and that is because of blood dripping into your stomach, then your diaphragm, and then, your nerves, it goes to your shoulder. So you have the nauseous, lightheadedness, bleeding, and the shoulder pain. So those are the common symptoms of an ectopic pregnancy, and usually that happens between 6 to 8 weeks of being pregnant. So now I know I have to stay overnight. I'm freaking out. I've never stayed at a hospital overnight. I'm like worried because I'm bleeding. What is going to be the outcome, for me. Then they swab me because, being in the hospital during COVID, that's nerve-wracking enough. So now they swab me to figure out if I'm COVID positive or negative, which I was negative. So they put me, then I had to wait like almost 2 hours for a room. So then they put me on the OBGYN ward. So while I'm in there, they're monitoring, the blood flow that I'm experiencing. So basically I had to pee in like the little whatever you call that, the little circle thing, and the nurse had to come in and check it. Every few hours they would come check my vitals. I'm hooked up to IV, still can't eat anything because then the nurse comes in and I'm like, can I eat? She's like, no, because you might have to go into surgery, which I'm like, what? No one ever discussed the surgery with me, blah, blah. She's like, well, we don't know. We'll see in the morning. So I'm just exhausted at this point. I'm bleeding. I'm in pain. I'm lightheaded. I'm hungry. It was just, tough. And then I felt, in there, because of COVID, visitation hours were a little bit different. You couldn't have people stay overnight with you. So I'm literally laying in this hospital bed, just looking at the ceiling. Fortunately, I had a nice view from my room. So I'm just looking at my room like, oh my God, like, what is going to be the outcome? So then the morning rolls around. And then the surgeon comes and he speaks to me. And he's like, okay, when you have an ectopic pregnancy, you have 2 forms of treatment. We were looking at your HCG levels overnight, and it seems like they've dropped overnight. So it can be that your body's naturally miscarrying the baby. However, we don't know for sure. And when it comes to an ectopic pregnancy, they do not let you leave without a treatment. You're either leaving that hospital, having gotten the treatment, or having the surgery. That's just how it is. Because they know if you go home, it's not going to be a good outcome and it can be fatal. So then he's like, you know what, given your age, you're pretty healthy, you're really early in the pregnancy, you can do the methotrexate, I think is how you pronounce it, methotrexate, yeah. So the methotrexate is basically chemo. It's chemo in an injection form, and what it does is it goes by your weight. That's how they administer it. So they have to check your weight first to see how much chemo they need to give you. And what it does, it helps your body absorb the pregnancy. So that's option number 1. 2, if you have ruptured your fallopian tube, then you have to do the surgery. So obviously I was like, okay, what do I do? I call my mom. My mom is like, I don't think that you should remove your fallopian tube, because let's just wait until the future. If you need to remove it in the future, you do. But if you can do the injection, do the injection, and we'll go from there. So I decided to do the injection, and they administer it. So now this is Wednesday, July 28th. So I would say Wednesday, July 28th is the day that I had to say goodbye to my baby. And it was like such a short amount of time. It's like I literally found out I was pregnant on Saturday, and then on Wednesday here I am saying goodbye. So it's like it really didn't even kick in that I was expecting. Was I planning on being pregnant? No. But if you out here fucking and sucking, this what happens. So that experience has definitely changed me, and it definitely has put me in a space the past few months. And I'm gonna do another video about how I healed from it, how to support someone who has, you know, gone through a miscarriage or something like that, because it's something that's really tough, and I feel like I am forever changed after going through that. And I wanted to make this story time is because a lot of people don't know what an ectopic pregnancy is, and it's good information to know out there. The thing is, now that I've experienced an ectopic pregnancy, my chances of having another one is higher. So you know, there's that. But yeah, it's something that definitely changed me. But fast forward, I get discharged from the emergency room, because once you get the injection, you know, you get discharged. Even if you did the surgery, it's an outpatient procedure. But then after that, you have to go to the doctor every week to do blood work to make sure that your HCG levels are going down, and you have to do blood work until it goes down to 0, because that basically means that you're not pregnant anymore. So even though I took the injection, I technically was still pregnant until slowly my body, you know, absorbed the pregnancy, the embryo, and then I wasn't pregnant anymore. So once I left, 2 days later, I stopped bleeding, but I still felt a little lightheaded, a little breast tenderness, and I had 2 follow-up appointments to the doctor. And then it's crazy because in that short amount of time, your body definitely changes. Like my boobs definitely were heavier, more sore, and at that early in the pregnancy, sometimes it's not that noticeable, but an ectopic pregnancy tends to make you more bloated. So you look more bloated. So you think that you look pregnant. And yeah, that was basically it. It was nice when my HCG levels went down to 0. I was no longer pregnant, so I kind of was in the clear. But for a good month, I couldn't lift anything, couldn't bend over, I couldn't walk long distances, I would get tired really quickly, and I had to take a lot of care when it comes to how I would do my day-to-day and really just take care of myself for that month. So that was basically how I ended my summertime shy this year. But yeah, if you know someone that has an ectopic pregnancy, or someone ever mentions to you like, okay, I had an ectopic pregnancy, or that's what they're currently experiencing, that's what they mean. So I hope my story time brought a little bit of an awareness to what an ectopic pregnancy is. And honestly, it is something that I'm still processing. You don't ever, well, not that you don't ever, you will get over it once you have another child, but it's something that takes you a while to, you know, heal from. And, you know, it's still a loss, even though it's an embryo, it still hurts, because at the end of the day, yes, we could say in the physical form it's an embryo, but in the spiritual, it's still an energy force. It's still a being. And that's just something, to think about. But yeah, that's basically my story time. Happy I'm here, happy I survived it, and I live to tell my story. And actually, ectopic pregnancies are more common than you would even realize. So when I was trying to look up the statistics online to put in this video, there wasn't really that great of statistics. To this date, there's only been one ectopic pregnancy that was able to come to full term, and that was in 1999. It was triplets actually, and it was in Europe. But no other time, has an ectopic pregnancy really been able to be viable. And unfortunately, while I was going through that, I did read about a young woman that her ectopic pregnancy went undetected, and she did go into a coma. And I never got to see what the outcome of her story was, if she survived it. So yeah, back in Trinidad, they say childbirth is like 1 foot in and 1 foot out. Pregnancy is 1 foot in and 1 foot out. You just never know. So going through that whole experience, it led me to have a deeper respect for moms. Not that I didn't have a respect for moms, but actually like being pregnant for that short period of time and everything that I went through, it's like, damn, like for a mom to go through 9 months of pregnancy and to deliver a baby, full term, that's amazing. That's, you gotta be grateful to God for that. And to the women we've lost in childbirth, just thinking of them, it's childbirth and pregnancy, we just act like, yes, it's a part of life, but it's a scary thing. It's a risky thing. And that's why it's so upsetting when women aren't respected the way that they should, because it's like we risk our lives to bring life into this world. And I just hope that men understand that. So yeah, that's my story. Cheers, more life. I'm in my little, jacket. This New Year's Eve looking real living roomish, It is what it is. But Happy New Year. And thank God that we made it through 2021, because it definitely has been a year. And all of God's blessings to everyone. And I hope everyone accomplishes everything that they want to in 2022. Remember that abundance is our birthright. So anything that we want, it's ours. And yeah, that's basically it. I'm going to finish my drink, eat my pomegranate seeds, and, do a little affirmations and write what I want to manifest in 2022. Maybe it's another baby. Maybe it's a marriage. Who knows? Only time will tell. So if you like this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Leave a comment down below if you know someone who's experienced an ectopic pregnancy or a miscarriage, or any comment that you want to leave. And I'll see you next time. Bye. Okay, y'all, so I totally didn't realize that my radiator was on the entire time. So sorry, it's like white noise now. Hopefully it's not too distracting.